Hi, everybody. You're listening to the Oneness Junkie podcast, hosted by me, Lydia Smith, a self proclaimed Oneness Junkie. Oneness Junkie is a place to be inspired, encouraged, and supported. Learn from the individuals who are working to make the world a better place. Let's meet today's guest. Hi, everyone. It's Lydia with the Oneness Junkie podcast and YouTube channel. And today I'm excited to host my first real nonprofit because I'm starting a new series where I want to find the nonprofits that are out there that want to be highlighted and then give them a chance to be highlighted and introduce themselves and introduce their story and maybe find out what their needs are. So today I'm sitting here with Jim Martinez. Hi, Jim.
Hello.
He is with Sight into Sound, and we're going to get into what they do. But before we get into that, Jim, will you take a moment and just introduce yourself to the audience so they can get to know you a little better?
Yes, I'm Jim Martinez. I'm the radio and audio manager here at Sight into Sound. I've been here since 1997. Started out as the nighttime kid, and kind of just worked my way up to the where I am now. We have an executive director. She does all the financial stuff and how raising money, grants, all that kind of stuff. So we have 3 full-time employees and 2 part-time employees, and the rest it's all done by volunteers. Over 100 volunteers that contribute to our service.
That's great. That's great. Let me just ask you a little bit about yourself. How did you get into this business? Like, how did you fall into this opportunity when you were younger?
Yeah, I was at my background was music and as well as audio recording, etc. And then I was at a recording studio that did a lot of commercial jingles, and the voiceover people would come in, and they did other stuff. They did music as well, bands and all that. So, but the voiceover people would come in, and then that was back when you actually had to go to a studio and book studio time, and it would take 2 or 3 days or maybe longer to get the studio time to get in there. And then studios were more ubiquitous back then. Almost every other neighborhood had a recording studio. I'm talking a big one, not the one in your bedroom like everyone has now, or in your garage. So so I was there, and then one of the guys who was working there, he was volunteering at Sight into Sound, taping for the blind. That's what we were called originally. And then he would leave when I would come in. He would leave and come volunteer, and he would always talk about it. And I didn't think anything of it. I said, well, that's pretty cool. They read and all that stuff. So, and then a few years later, I had left that studio. We remained friends, and he called me one day. He says, I got a job, a job that pays a lot more money. He said, and I need to leave like now. And I took it. So, but they're looking for someone to replace me. So are you interested? I said, yeah. And thinking about, I'll be there. I would know I didn't have the job. I just applied for it. So yeah, I'll do it. So I applied, and then I said, and I got the job, and I said, well, I'll be here a year, maybe 2, and that so until something better comes along, and nothing really better came along, and I kind of stuck it out, and then you get to know everyone as well. The volunteers, they're a long time. We have volunteers here, been over here over 30 years.
It's family now,
Yeah. Oh
right?
yeah, yeah. So now I was the youngest one. Now
That's
I'm
30
now
years, right?
yeah,
What's
almost
your anniversary?
February 1st actually.
Okay.
So it'll be what, 27 years.
Okay.
Yeah, 27 years.
Yeah. That's exciting. Well,
Yeah.
congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Staying anywhere, I mean, just to give yourself a little pat on the back, staying anywhere that long these days is a
Yeah.
major commitment. And obviously, you love helping the cause that you're a part of, and you're doing a great job in, supporting it. So, thank you for being here and willing to tell us a little bit more about Sight into Sound.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah. So can we go in and will you go back? I want the audience to understand where it began. I want to know the story of how did people find out that it was a needed service? How did it get started? I think you said back in 1967.
Hmm.
So that's 55, 56 years
Yeah.
ago, which
Yeah.
is, yeah. And I want to hear, how did it get formed? Was there a story, a person that it was needed for? Like, what's the background story on this?
Yeah, in six, probably before that, there was a man who lived. There was a kid down the street who was going to college. He was blind, and they accepted him to college. I think U of H, but I'm not sure. And then, of course, back things weren't accessible as they are now. And then, so he enrolled in college, and so he figured, well, I'll help the kid out because he's the kid lived in the neighborhood. He saw him grow up, and so I'll read a book for you, one of the textbooks. And he read one and liked it, read another one, and the kid was, he was able to keep up with everyone else. And he read another one and kind of got the idea, and he got some of his other friends. They're kind of like philanthropists, and they kind of said, and then they found out that there were two or three other services like that in the country. And then, so they kind of got on board with that, and they said, we've got something here. We're helping. And then that kid told someone else, told someone else, told someone, all word of mouth, which I've always said that's still the best marketing, word of mouth. And then, so it kind of grew. They got involved with the other services that were a part of, that were doing something similar. Then they got part of the National Library of Congress. They were one of the satellite services. And so what it is, you come in, and we had one person in one booth, like the monitor. They were called a producer, and the other booth, there was a glass. They had each glass facing each other. The other one was the reader, and the monitor had the old reel-to-reel machines, and he had to load up the tape and you know all that. And so they would hit record, and they would point, and they each had a copy of the book. They read it. They would send it to the Library of Congress, and they would say, "I don't like it. Do it again." So it was constantly, because it had to be perfect. You know, and
Wow.
and they read everything. When I first came here, there was a wall of paperbacks that they put on the wall showing what they had and who read it and who was the monitor, the producer, and they had, it was all over like a big wall. Um, so um, so so they did that for through the 70s, and then in the late 70s, they found out there was a side frequency. All of the FM radio stations have a side frequency. It's kilohertz. It's not AM or FM. It's kilohertz. Um, the government had, well, let's use that for your blind services. So starting the late 70s, we would send out radios that would only pick up our station, kind of like a closed circuit radio, and you would hear us. You would only hear us. And we were part of NPR. NPR was the main channel, and then we would, not just us but all the other services. By 1980, the services were growing around the country, and they were either affiliated with the NPR or a university in town or in the city. And so we sent out up until before the lockdown, we were sending out radios to pick up our station. And of course, technology just, once streaming became a thing, or easier to use, then we went streaming. But yeah, so every now and then we get phone calls about, can you send me your radio? So we don't have those anymore. And but yeah, so we're streaming at our website. We're on the smart speaker, the Alexa, and the Google Home, and we're on. So if you have a television that does not have cable, just a regular TV, the regular Houston channels, we're channel 8.5.
Okay. Like an antenna.
Correct. Yes. So
Interesting.
so 8 point, you can't get it on cable, just the regular Houston channels,
Yeah.
the broadcast. So you'll see a black screen, but you'll hear us.
Wow. That is
And,
fascinating.
and then we're on, if you have HD radio in your car, we're HD4 on 88.7, which is KUHF PR. And
Okay. But that's local, right? You have to be in
yeah,
Houston to
yeah,
get those
exactly, for the HD
signals.
radio. Yeah, in the early 2000s, HD radio was going to be the next evolution in technology. Kind of like, because HD TV was coming at that time. Remember, you had to change your TV or it was going to blow up. Remember all that stuff. So, when HD TV came along, they changed. We went from analog to digital on our radios, so we had to get whole new radios, and then but they put us on the TV as well. And then HD radio was going to be the equivalent. It was going to be the next big thing. It never took off. It was funded by the government and just never happened. And then the iPhone came along, the smartphone, and once that, as you know, that was the game changer with everything. So that kind of got abandoned,
Do
and
y'all
so
have an app or something now? Or is
no,
it just, website?
We were going to do an app a few years ago, and then it was real expensive. I'm sure it's cheaper now. I'm talking 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But then streaming came along, and it got easier. And we said, well, let's just leave it at streaming for now.
Right.
And
Everybody
then
can access that.
yeah, and then of course I have several listeners. They'll tell me, say, yes, I put you, I, I, I get on my smartphone, put you on my Bluetooth speaker, and then I go to bed with it. You know how you leave the radio on when you go to bed? Well, they'll leave us on, you know, and so things like that. So it just, so yeah, so we're streaming. We're on a couple of there's some websites that have a whole list of radio stations, and we're on some of those. We I don't know how we got on there, and the only one reason I know because the listeners will tell us. So I found you on this website with all these different radio stations, and I said,
That's funny.
yeah,
Let me kind of dissect this a little bit for myself, and hopefully the listeners are curious too. So, somebody from the inside, like I went to your building, so someone shows up at your building. You said we're on those platforms, but who is on? Like, what do they arrive at work and they or volunteer and they go into one of those booths? And what are they reading? Are they randomly reading anything? So you have to just listen to whatever they're reading, or can you select?
no. So the volunteers come in, or they can record at home. And so after the lockdown, we reopened, and a lot of them said, "No, I like reading at home. I'd rather stay." And other people says, "I can't wait to come in. You know how it is. I got sick
They're
of being
stir
at home."
crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So what it is, we have a daily schedule. So think of it like a TV schedule. So every day at Monday, same thing comes on Tuesday, Wednesday, etc. So we have that. We read the Houston Chronicle from 12 to 2 p.m.
Okay.
7 days a week. The Wall Street Journal at 10 a.m. during the week. We have two book hours, 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. Two different books, and it airs at one. The readings are 1 hour at a time, and once the book is finished, we'll go to another book. And then so we read all the major magazines, Time, National Geographic, Sports Illustrated, People, Reader's Digest. We read the grocery ads. We read all the major stores in town. Fiesta, Randall's, Kroger, HEB.
HEB,
We're
Whole
throwing
Foods.
Whole Foods. We're throwing Sprouts when
You
we have
mean
time.
whole paycheck?
Yeah, yeah. And Fiestas are most popular because someone said, "Can you read the Fiesta ads?" Because they were smaller. They're smaller ads. They've gotten
Oh,
bigger. And then a couple of times in Fiesta, I saw a couple of our listeners. They were in there and like,
oh.
"Hey, I know
That
you."
is
So
so cool. So
yeah,
I'm thinking broad perspective because think about this. This is a global platform, both on
hmm
the iPod, I mean the Apple iTunes and
devices. Yeah,
Amazon and everything, plus the YouTube. So really, if anyone wants the Wall Street Journal read to them, they don't have to be blind to go
exactly,
listen to the Wall
exactly,
Street Journal. And then I would encourage you, if you have sight and you are using the service, I would please encourage you to donate for the services that you're utilizing, because what a benefit it is for someone while I'm washing dishes to read for
exactly.
me the Wall Street Journal so I don't have to, like
Yeah,
what a
exactly.
great service. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, this is really not just for the blind. This is for
no,
anyone who wants to multitask, really,
exactly,
right?
exactly. Yeah,
That is fascinating.
I say all the time, we were podcasting before podcasting. We just didn't know what it was. And it used to be real hard to explain to people what we do.
Oh
I
my
see,
god,
and
do
then you
y'all
read what, and then now, like in the last 5-10 years, podcasting has exploded, and so now I just tell people because we're a reading service, a radio reading service for the blind, visually impaired, or
right, but it's a
or
service.
information.
You have to pay for it, or is it
No,
free?
no, our services are free.
Okay.
Or we're an information service. So it's kind of hard to explain that. Now I'm at the point, yeah, we're podcasting for blind people. Oh, okay, and they get it because everyone knows what podcasting is. Even if they don't listen to one, they know what it is. So
Right.
it's a lot like I've said. People have come into our world, without even trying. It just happened.
I
And
mean, what about like dyslexia and
mhm,
people who just ADHD people who just have a hard time like focusing on text,
mhm,
that need to hear it, people who are audio learners,
yeah.
audible
So
learners.
yeah. So so if you have a learning disability, ADHD, all that, you qualify for our service. So we have one. He wants to be a refrigerator repair person, and so he said, I can see, and he drove up here. He said, I can see. I just the words and numbers are just jumbled up. But if I hear it and follow along, I can do it. So yeah, we read. I had a volunteer read that book, and I said, "You realize all you got to do is take the test, and you'll be certified." I told the volunteer that. He goes, "Yeah, I know." So she said, "I know more about refrigerators than my husband." I said, "Drives me crazy." It's just
I
so
love
yeah,
that.
so if you have a learning disability, dyslexic, we read all kinds of stuff that you read it and like, oh, the person can see obviously because they'll say, "Don't read the pictures. I can figure it out. What's your
Well, that brings me to another question. Like, if you're not blind, because it started with a blind,
in mind?" Yeah.
intention, but if you're not blind, aside from ADHD or dyslexia, are there any other avenues that people have disabilities in that this is a great resource for them?
If you had a stroke and you can't use your hands anymore, you can't turn the pages of a book or a
Okay.
newspaper. You
Yeah,
can
or
you qual
Parkinson's or
exactly.
something.
You qualify for a service and just you fill in an application. That's all you do. Give us what your impairment is. It could be glaucoma, macular degeneration, or whatever. And
Wow.
and a doctor's name and phone number, and we sign it. They can sign it, or if they can't, we'll sign it. It's not like I said, our services are free. So
I mean, I can just like my aunt is 83 and I mean she can read and everything, but she has the Alexa sitting there next to her.
hmm
I mean, I can just see how like that her whole community who maybe doesn't enjoy reading this fine print of a
hmm
newspaper, or maybe they can't even afford, they're on a limited income and they can't afford to get a copy of the Wall Street Journal or the
yeah,
Houston Chronicle or whatever. What a great way to help those who have new levels of need. Like, there's so much your organization is able to help.
yeah. We read. We also have a different division, a custom recording, and that's per individual client. So what it is, if you have a book, textbook, instruction manual. We do a lot of Sunday school stuff because that's not available on audio, just like a church book. We'll read a lot of that. Those daily devotionals, 60-day devotional, 100-day devotional, 30-day. We read those. Um, and anything else. So what that is, if you have a book, send it in. You have to provide the text. We read it. We'll send it back to you with either on the audio on CD or do it Dropbox, or we can do both.
Wow, and so it just becomes a listening tool for
hmm
free. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. So, is there any way that y'all are able to be hooked up with like Amazon in a way that the Amazon, you know, need like the people would even learn about you, that have Amazon that don't.
Yeah, if you have the Amazon Fire Stick, we're on there because the people have told me.
What's
If
it called? Their Sight into Sound?
Citing the sound or channel, yeah, no, because
It's
anything
an app.
Amazon, anything Amazon has Alexa.
Yeah, it's an app. Yeah, I have it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna test it.
yeah.
So, do I ask Audible to play
No,
it on Alexa?
that I don't know. You probably could. So you say Alexa, play the radio reading service on.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
she's back there. She's listening to me right.
Okay, so if you say or the aid lady, I have a lot of the same people. They call it the aid lady because if you say it out loud, it'll.
I know she's gonna go off on the
Yeah, exactly.
broadcast.
So play the radio.
What do you I'm gonna write it down. What do what do you ask for from A?
Play the radio reading service on
Okay.
TuneIn Radio. TuneIn was one of those.
I know what that is because
Yeah,
we used to have our music on there.
mhm. And the
Play
reason we
the
say radio
radio
readings,
ring
the
service.
reason we say that because that's the description that TuneIn put on there. And so when
Okay.
it hears it, it comes. Sometimes you don't have to do TuneIn. You can say play radio reading service, or because and people will tell me. And again, we found out one of our longtime listeners who had one of our radios. He got an Alexa. He's totally blind. He had an Alexa for Christmas. He said, "Let me just try it," um, and it popped up. And he called us. He
Do
said,
you do you mind if I just try it right now in
yeah,
action? Okay,
see what
let me
happens."
see if I can make her do it, okay?
Okay.
Alexa, play the radio ring service.
Sight into Sound radio reading service from TuneIn.
Yeah.
This is TuneIn.
They'll play their own commercial.
Alexa, stop. That is so
Yeah.
cool, y'all. Listen to that. Are y'all amazed? That is so
But
awesome.
the little commercial you heard, that's TuneIn's commercial. That's not ours. So just so you know. So
You're not associated with
no.
games.
Yeah. So if
You're
it's a
like,
product, yeah, if
we
it's a
don't
product you
claim
don't like,
them.
yeah, if you don't product, it's a product you don't like. That's not us. That's just you
That's
know.
funny.
So,
Or don't blame us for having
exactly.
to wait through a commercial, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Kind of like
Oh my
YouTube.
god,
You
that
know.
is
So.
so fascinating. And while we're on the subject, you
Hmm.
guys, if y'all are listening, you can ask A to play my podcast too. She knows my podcast, so I'm on Amazon as well. So just I don't know if y'all know that, but you can ask A to play the Oneness Junkie podcast and she'll get it going. So
And someone told
anyway,
me on the Google Home, it's the same command.
oh, neat.
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. Oh my gosh. Well, my aunt has an A, so that's good. I'm going to tell her to test it. So that's
Okay. Great.
awesome. So, all right. So we talked about did I interrupt the history or did you finish the story around the history? Did you go all the way to now? Like
Yeah.
who we talked about who you're serving. We talked about how you do it. Um are there any new now that we're in new tech and we're in new
Hmm.
streaming and all of this stuff, it's no longer cassette tapes or reel to
Hmm.
reel or whatever. Like how has that changed? Is there anything you haven't mentioned that has changed the game? Like, are less people using it because they don't know about it? Like, what's the situation now?
Yeah. For the longest time we had the radios, and as the internet came along, and then streaming came along, and streaming in the beginning was not easy. You had to go through a bunch of steps to get click on that button, and half the time it wouldn't work. Your favorite radio station or whatever. Um, but when streaming became popular and more popular, and people were starting to figure it out, we had several people, even the volunteers, said, you guys are going to go out of business because now anyone can listen to anything. And the exact opposite happened. We got more listeners, and so especially during the lockdown because people were going crazy, and then so it just our and we had more besides just blind people. It used to be how many blind people were listening, and that's you can't go by that anymore because there's everything's just opened up. And so we had several people, even during the lockdown, people would call us up, said, "Who are you guys? I found you on my TV by accident." And a couple of people called and says, "I really like our program is completely different from the mainstream," and that was the whole point. And people called and says, "I really like your programming, but I'm not blind. Is that okay?" I said, "No one's going to come to your house and knock down your door and
But don't forget to donate.
yeah, exactly." So I said, "No." So, oh no, so I'd be happy to donate and just and we have some people who were in radio a long time ago, and they found us, and I said, and they were losing their sight, and then they were saying, I said, "Oh, this is how radio used to be, or
Oh
even
my
how TV
god.
used to be." So here's my check. Usually at the end of the year they'll give
Oh my
money.
gosh.
So.
My mind is just going crazy because I mean, before this conversation, I wasn't giving, I wanted to interview you, but I hadn't really put a lot of thought into, research because I wanted to ask you all the questions. And so I
Mhm.
wanted to be fresh. But as a marketing person, I'm like, does every optometrist and eye surgeon know about y'all? I mean, think of everyone who loses
Mhm.
their sight on a regular basis. They're not just been blind their whole life or whatever, and they've been
Yeah.
in this industry and in the community, but they're going like you just said, macular degeneration, and as you
Mhm.
age, and blah blah blah. Like, how do y'all get the word out that this is available for all the people who used to see and now they can't? Like, how do we get that message out?
Yeah, there's some optometrists. They'll have our pamphlets at the when they have information on different services, that'll be there. But we've been around so long, thankfully, because most nonprofits don't last that long, especially local type. But it's just word of mouth. People like doing it.
Have
You
y'all
know,
had any recent media? Because I'd love for the media to run a story on you. Like, have y'all had anything recent?
about a year ago, early 23, the Chronicle came out, did a paper on us. We were in the Sunday paper, the Zest, and it
Okay.
was like a 3-page article with color pictures,
Great.
everything. So
Great.
and we got a lot of feedback. We had to. I said, people are going to call to want to volunteer, and they did, and then we had to stop, and we said, call us later in the year because we're swamped, which is a good
Yeah.
great.
Hard to manage all the volunteers.
Yeah, and then we even got a couple of on the feed popped up on Facebook. People were calling us from different states. And the article was like 6 months old. I said, I just, they thought it was happened last week, and I said, no, but no, it's great. We're not in your location, but they can still record from home if they wanted to. So
I love it.
so
Oh my gosh, there's just so much there for everyone to benefit from. So thank you for the work that y'all are doing for this cause. So, are there any, let's go to a little bit different place. Like, are there any challenges? Like, I always want to help the people that I'm talking to. So, are there any challenges that y'all face now that maybe someone listening might find an idea or a solution to help y'all?
there's always the money challenge. We have a golf tournament every October. I don't know the date yet, but it's usually at Herman Park public course, and so we have that, and you can go to our website and find that out, that information, if you want to sign up. Usually we have like a team, usually a team of 5 or something like that you donate for, and then
Yeah, pay a
so
certain amount for.
mhm, yeah, so we have that. Most of our donations are through our website, or we have a donate page. We get money from we send out grants. We fill out information on the grants for foundations, corporations, but it's private donation, no government money, and those $5, $10 donations, they add up, especially at the end of the year. So they really do add up. So it's privately funded, and like I said, all of our readings are done by volunteers. So
That's fascinating. I hope that from this new understanding of the services y'all are providing, and I just request that if anyone who has sight and isn't disabled is using the service, definitely donate to the cause to pay it forward and help somebody else out who doesn't have that luxury. So thank you all for, in advance for, supporting this organization. Is there anything that we need to discuss or that I need to ask you that I don't know to ask you that you want to talk about? Is there anything that is going on? Like, you said you have a golf tournament, but is
mhm.
anything coming up? Like, I don't know, I mean, y'all's big anniversary is in what, 3 years,
Yeah,
right?
the big one, 60. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
big 60 years. I
yeah.
mean, is there anything that a goal or anything that y'all are talking about as an organization that we can, because this audio file and or video is going to last years
Mhm.
on the internet. So how do we want to leave the audience understanding what they can do, to help? I mean, like, share it with their on their social media with a friend. That's one way to spread the
Mhm.
message, right? That getting the word out to help more people is one way to help. If you find this service fascinating and helpful, or you have a grandmother or somebody who needs the services, you could share the video here or the audio for them. You of course you can donate if you have if you work for a
Mhm.
corporation who's asking you, to match some kind of
Mhm.
donation, consider recommending sight into sound as an option, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So
What
so
are some more? These are just like, I'm making these up. So, are there any other ways that we can help you that go beyond just giving a dollar amount?
yeah, a lot of corporations, they have matching programs. So they'll match, how many hours that you volunteered, and they match based on, like an average, like how much it would cost for if you had an employee reading. They match that number, so we get double that. So if you look for a major corporate, we have few people from Exxon and Shell who read, and we fill out a form, and so that prove that that they actually did the work. And like I said, a lot of people, you can either come in to read or you can record from home. Almost everyone has a podcast now, so they have the equipment. So we have 2 people right now who they work during the day, and so I can read from home. I'd love to read. It helps that if you read for on your spare time, just for leisure, because that does help when you're reading for us. And like I said, we have an audition process. You read something just to understand how good you can read, And like I said, I tell people, we're not looking for voice actors, but don't be monotone either. Just don't be boring. Because no one likes
Keep them
boring.
awake, right? Keep them
Exactly.
awake. They
Yeah.
can't fall asleep.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's called vocal variety in your voice with without the tone in the voice is everything. You know, I always tell people, your voice doesn't lie. People know when you're having a bad day or a good day. You talk to someone over the phone. Your voice doesn't lie. So so yeah, just normal speaking, normal pauses. I tell people, don't do the dramatic 5-second pause because you're the only one that cares about that. Isn't it? So don't go in audition mode when you do our
Or
auditions.
like put people to sleep. In the
Exactly.
beginning, God created the
Yeah.
earth.
Yeah, no, yeah. So a lot of it all people go back to if you like speaking in public, it's easy for you, and some people don't, but they want to do it, and we just kind of cheer them on because you could tell that they want to do it. You have to
Yeah.
you have to want to do it. A lot of people, if you revert back to being in the fourth grade and standing in front of the class and you kind of tense up, that comes out in the voice too. You know.
Oh my gosh. I could see how people who were avid readers who enjoy getting lots of knowledge and information, it's like a win-win because they get a
Hmm.
chance to read things that they might not
Exactly.
choose to read. So
Exactly.
they're very knowledgeable about like
Hmm.
how to do a refrigerator or whatever.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's not something you would choose to read on your
Yeah.
own, but because you know how to wrap your pipes or
Exactly.
whatever.
We had one last year, not this Christmas, but Christmas before. Had a blind man. He got an air fryer for Christmas, and it had two books, how to use it, and over 600 recipes. And so, well, and so he always, I got to know how to use it. So we read it, and then and so we got, and the reader who would read it, every time she would read it, she goes, she'd come in the morning, and she'd read it for a couple hours. She goes, I'm hungry. I'm going to lunch. Because you got all these ideas. It was every food group on how to make whatever in the air fryer, things like that. And so usually when you read recipes, you kind of just glaze over it and kind of look at it, but you have to read it out loud. So what you do with recipes, you read it, the first line, a cup of salt, whatever. Pause like a second or two, and read the next one. Read the next one, because they may be writing it down, or the
Oh,
person with
yeah,
them.
you can't
Yeah.
read it fast.
No, exactly. So we have to read that as
Yeah,
well.
or
So
they could be doing it, making the
exactly,
entree while they're
exactly.
reading it.
Yeah,
That's
hit the
good.
rewind button. So things like that. And so there was one uh, on knitting, two books on knitting, and it was right before the lockdown, and no one would touch the book. This is back when we had multiple readers reading. We now have one reader per book now. And so the lockdown happened, and I said, and so she's already been waiting 2 months for this book. So
Aw.
I said, let me go ahead and read it just to get done. And these were big, thick books. I know nothing. I read it, and I know nothing about
Now you know how to
reading.
knit.
Yeah, so I didn't know all these acronyms for it and all this stuff. I looked it all up and I read it. It was exhausting, but I read it, got it out. She was happy. She called, said thank you for reading it, and then my executive director asked me. She said, so I was telling her all about it. She said, so what did you learn about knitting? I said, I'll learn. I'll never do it because I had no interest, you know. But it talked about everything, how to sit, and
Wow.
what happens when you sit too long, and things like that, and you know. So I learned a lot about that. I learned how to sit too. I didn't even think about that. How to sit correctly without hurting your legs or your back.
Yeah, cutting off your circulation.
Exactly, exactly. So all that. So I didn't know that. Okay, so yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, I feel like we've covered a lot of good ground. Is there anything in wrapping up that you think we should mention about sight into sound?
There's another third division. We have the radio, we have a custom recording, and we have description, audio description. Audio description. So we describe plays at Miller Outdoor Theater, and we did Alley and Hobby Center for a while, but they do it on their own now. They kind of learned it from us.
Oh, is that like interpreting what's happening?
Yeah. So what audio description is when there's no dialogue, a blind person doesn't know what's going on. So we describe the action when there's no dialogue.
Wow. Okay. So,
So
like, do you go sit with them at
yeah.
the?
So at the Alley or Hobby or Miller, we'll get the script ahead of time, And so we know what. So they'll go and the describer will, the volunteer will they have to preview it ahead of time and take notes, so they know what's coming. And then so when the time comes, because it's like one described event, it's not every, it's only a certain time. It's not the whole run of the performance.
Oh,
It may be like on a, usually on a Sunday matinee kind of thing. And then so they go in and then describe the action. And we do the rodeo as well. We do the rodeo parade and the 3 rodeo performances. So we'll describe what's going on up until the musical performer comes on. Then we'll sign off
you're
because
like,
they can hear
there's
that.
all these lambs and they're running around and
Yeah,
there's kids on top of them and
yeah,
they're
exactly.
bouncing.
Yeah, and they're crying and all that stuff, and the horse
One
and
just fell off and hurt his foot.
yeah, exactly. And so you
Is it
describe.
really like that?
Yeah, so
Oh
what you
my
do is
gosh.
so at the stadium, you go to the guest services.
Mutton busting.
Exactly. So you go to the guest services and you tell them, I like a headset for the blind, and they give you a headset, and then you go turn it on and you hear us, and then we have, and again, those are volunteers
Are
doing it
you
as
like
well.
in a room or somewhere? Or are
No,
you
if you've been to the rodeo, that whole media section on one side with all the cameras and all that stuff, we're in one of those little booths, so
okay?
we can see,
Interesting. Oh
see
my
the action.
gosh.
Yeah.
I bet people love volunteering for that job.
Oh yeah, they won't give it up once they do it. So so you got to get that funnel cake
You
when
describe the bull riding and the
everything,
horse barrel races
the
and the
barrel racing,
you're like,
the chuck
Chase
wagon, yeah,
Bank is in the, the what are they called? The chuck wagon races at the
chuck
end.
wagon
Chase
races,
Bank is
yeah,
in the lead, and then here comes
yeah,
HEB around the corner.
exactly, do all that. And because the blind person sitting there, everyone's going crazy, making noise. Well, what are they doing? Why are they? Now we describe what they're, the reason why people are,
Oh my
cheering
gosh.
and all that
I
stuff.
could
So
I might be good at that one. I'm good with the chuck
yeah,
races.
yeah,
It's like
okay.
chariot races.
Yeah, we do the rodeo parade as well. So so when they, what you see on TV when they have it, we have the same script. So we know what's coming. The trail riders, who's coming, who's on the
Oh, yeah,
floats.
the what high school's
Yeah,
next, and
exactly. So I'll do all that, and so the radio has a special section at the parade route where they call it special friends. So all the different organizations go to that one area and all that. So
I bet y'all work closely with the blind organization on West Dallas. Isn't there a
Lighthouse,
yeah,
Lighthouse of Houston, yeah.
are
Yeah,
y'all
they're the ones that take out people, kids to the rodeo. They're the ones that do it.
okay.
And we do the description. We have our own equipment and do that. So yeah, all the local services, Lighthouse, Houston Council of the Blind, American Council of the Blind of Texas, the Texas chapter. And, so we work with all of them, and we all know each other. So
Yeah, and by the way, any of those nonprofits that you want to introduce them to their own episode about how they serve the community, I'm open to giving everybody their own episode so the
okay,
world can know what's up and what ways people can help each other
hmm,
and offer more goodness in the world and help spread the goodness,
yeah,
whether it's through a donation or through your time or through your thoughts or through your sharing. There's
hmm,
lots of ways to help that if you can't help monetarily, you can help in other ways, even
yeah,
energetically.
yeah. Through your time or just referrals. You may not need the service, but your neighbor down the street might need the service. Or
Absolutely.
like I said, your aunt, or just, or you never know what's going to happen. So it just yeah. So that's just old fashioned word of mouth. Get it out
Yeah.
there. We
I
never
mean, someone could have a car accident and go
exactly.
blind, or maybe they're just even temporary. I've heard of like temporary blindness for illness and things like
Hmm.
that. I mean, people don't know about these things if they haven't been around, in this
Yeah,
community.
we had one girl. That's about 10 years ago or so. 8 to 10 years ago. She came in with her dad. She'd been in a car accident, and she had a real bad head injury, and she was wanting us to read stuff for her. And she was in rehab trying to get, and she was having a hard time talking because she was just getting through it, and it's
Yeah.
just and so we read books for her, and then she was sending the books, didn't hear anything, which is fine. And then about 2 or 3 years later, this woman comes in the door, and it was around Christmas time. She had like a bag of cookies, and she goes, "Yeah, do you remember me?" And I said, "No, I don't think so." She goes, "I came in with my dad. I was in that car wreck." And she was talking fine, perfectly. She drove her way up there. She just said, "I just wanted to thank you because pretty much back to normal. She gave us cookies for Christmas because you helped me.
Aw,
So
that's so
just little
sweet.
things like that. It just
The appreciation is
yeah, we got her
thick,
through it.
right?
Yeah, so we
It's
got
good.
people. We gotten people through college, you know, so that we read their books and the colleges, the textbook companies, they've done a lot better job of providing audio on their own now, which is great. You know.
I am so happy, Jim, that you were able to be my first nonprofit to highlight because I can just see so much good interviewing all the future nonprofits that want to be highlighted and have their own episode. There's so much good that's being done out in the world, and we've got to get the word out so that the people who need the services can find the services,
Hmm.
and those who feel strongly about helping others. Maybe they don't have the time, but they have the finances. I'm going to provide a link underneath the description of all my videos and my podcast platforms where people can go directly to the website and can donate and share in the goodness of what y'all are creating. I mean, y'all are just the ambassadors who are actually doing the work. You need the people who can help support the workers and the volunteers that are doing the good work out there in the world.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So thank you for being here, Jim. I
Oh, thank
really
you. Thanks for
appreciate your
inviting me.
time today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, or, as we're wrapping up, will you tell them your website and whether or not you have social, let's just tell people how to find you.
Website is siteintosound.org. Our phone number is 713-622-2767, and I'll probably be the one answering the phone.
Now you're getting old school.
Yeah. So and
You're
then
aging yourself.
I know. So
Giving a phone number
yeah,
on a global platform.
yeah. So yeah, call us, and then our general email is info@sightingtosound.org. So info at sightingtosound.org. We're on Facebook, Sighting to Sound Radio.
Awesome, and they're on TuneIn.
Tune in everything. Yeah.
I've used to have TuneIn app on my phone,
Hmm.
and
Me
you
too.
can
Yeah.
search in
Yeah.
TuneIn, you
Exactly.
can search for y'all's
And
thing.
they put us up there on their own. We didn't even ask. It just
Yeah, that's
so
awesome. Good
yeah.
for y'all. Yeah, I appreciate, all your time today. I think it was an excellent episode. It was fun, and I appreciate you
Thank you.
and all that you're doing out there in the world to make the world a better place.
Thank you. We're not going to stop.
All right. Well, I'm in Houston, so I'll see you around.
Okay. Good
Thank
to see you too.
you.
Bye bye.
Thank you. We've reached the end of this episode. If you'd like to continue with this inspirational journey, be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out. If you are a self-proclaimed oneness junkie, get yourself a t-shirt and spread the message of oneness in your community. And finally, if you have a story to share or know someone that should be a guest on this podcast, contact us at onenessjunkie.com. See you next time. And remember, when we heal ourselves, we heal the world. Compassion starts with you and me.